Let's jump into the next talking point because the AP poll week 6 is spicy and very spicy because Tennessee is number 1 for the first time since 2018, 2019. But let's talk about it. They're off to an 8-0 start. They're ranked number 1 in net and also 2 in Kim Pong. Jalen, despite Tennessee being number 1 for the first time in years, do you feel like they have what's your take on their dominance so far? And do you feel like they have deficiencies in their game that can show up later in the year?
Their dominance, I think it's been good. Um, but I don't think that like they've been so dominant to where it's like definitive number one. I feel like they've been so dominant the fact and it's been just enough to get them at number one because
Mm,
other teams have lost.
yeah,
Like I feel like if they was to play Auburn, I feel like Auburn beats them. I feel like they would beat Kentucky, but I feel like Florida would beat them.
I'm
Does
on the same boat with
Chaz
you.
Lanier inability to create for others at times bother you?
Yeah, but they got Zakai Ziegler,
They do guys Ziegler.
so it's like, and I don't know if he's leading the SEC in assists this year like he did last year, but I feel like as far as you got him as a playmaker, things can still work out, which that is a deficiency. And I just feel like they have guys, but if it's like late in the game, I don't know if they got like that. We're gonna go to you on the ISO. We know we need a bucket. It's you.
Hmm.
And we're gonna choose you every time type
Yeah.
of. Yeah, I feel you on that. Auburn was coming in. They held at number 2 despite their loss to Duke. KC, they received 3 first place votes, showing the committee's respect for their consistency. But my question to you is this being fair or is it a little bit too forgiving?
No, I believe it's 100% fair. We got to look at the dynamic of that game. That game was in Cameron Indoor Stadium. Really raucous environment, tough to win in. And Auburn came in and punched Duke in the mouth. A lot of people forget it because Duke ultimately won the game. We saw our guy Chad Baker Mazzara go crazy in that first half, hitting Kobe like those tough shots, like those shot creator shots. So no, I think they could be forgiven for that loss. We seen Janai Broom struggle at times in that game, especially when
Mhm.
Malik Brown was on him. But we also seen him. He ended up cleaning up pretty well. I think he had what, like 21 and 12, something like that,
Yeah.
Jalen.
It was
So
crazy.
so yeah, I think that if we consider Duke a good team, Auburn, if that game is in Auburn, I would pick Auburn. If that game was in Duke again, I'm not so certain who I would pick because it did take for Isaiah Evans to come in off the bench who hadn't done much recently and score 18 points. So no, Auburn still deserves first place consideration. If you look at their dominance, you can't say, "Oh, what have you done for me lately?" It's still a good ball team.
I'm gonna stay with you though. Talking about teams is what have you done for me lately? Iowa State has lately been climbing and going crazy. They're number 3, their highest rating since the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
Their
Wow, that's
defense
that.
is very turnover heavy, meaning that they forced a lot of them. But I want to know. I just want you to get it on wax. Is Iowa State for real? Before we even get deeper into the season,
Uh, my answer was yes to that last week. My answer to that is hell yes. Excuse my French this week. I love the team ball. I love that Keyshawn Gilbert has took more of the responsibility to be able to score the ball, but he's also creating for others. I just feel like, their head coach, TJ Otzelberger, does such a good job with emphasizing team ball. And it wasn't that, oh, this guy shut Killer Cam Jones down or that guy shut Killer Cam Jones down. What happened is they played team ball defensively and they didn't shut him down. You're not going to shut him down. But what they did is contain him and force him to take really difficult shots. I like this Iowa State team. The only team I may like more than them or equally as them is probably Alabama. Those right now are the two teams that I look at and I say, hey, I like these two teams a lot.
speaking of those two, Alabama. We'll talk a little bit later about them in the show, but they are a part of the SEC East. I mean, it's SEC, and they lead all conference with 9 ranked teams right now. Jalen, last week we talked about Oklahoma, but they had the biggest jump in the poll, climbing 8 spots to number 13
Yes,
after
sir.
wins over
Yes, sir.
Georgia Tech and Alcorn. How do you feeling currently about the state of Oklahoma basketball?
I mean, I still like them. When I look like they have multiple players that can score, and they shocked me so far this season. But now it's like every time they win, it's like I'm expecting it. I feel like at times their offense is prone to getting stagnant. Although I feel like that's like a lots of offenses in college basketball,
Yeah,
but um, them having the highest jump kind of surprises me. Uh, but at the same time, it's like this is kind of what I'm expecting now.
because
Like,
of all the other losses going on in
yeah,
the post. Yeah, I'm gonna stay with you though. Um, Speaking of dropping and going up, Kansas dropped to 10, but they had back-to-back losses, Creighton and Missouri. You mentioned Missouri earlier in SEC and also Creighton in the Big East, but do you think that there are questions that are arising right now about Kansas's depth in their perimeter defense?
I think so. Like when you look at it, they played against I think against Mizzou they played around like 9 guys, but 7 guys played major minutes.
Yeah.
I think after AJ Store, it was like 9 minutes and 7 minutes. Like it wasn't that many. I think they might have a depth issue, but I don't know. Like Rylan Griffin and AJ Store, if I'm not mistaken, came off the bench against Mizzou. Uh, but like I said, they only had like 7 guys that played major minutes,
Yeah.
which is fine. But at the same time, it's like you maybe want the eighth guy
Yeah.
that can be reliable just in case somebody get into foul trouble. Now you really only got 6 guys, and um, depth, but also it's like I don't know like what it is with the perimeter scoring. I feel like they did a good job in the portal getting perimeter guys like Zeke Mayo, AJ Store, Rylan Griffith, but like I don't think anybody on the perimeter really scares me that much as a scoring option
I
right
don't
now.
think Bill Self has figured out the lineup yet.
He hasn't.
He's been
He
teetering with it a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, like he started AJ Store like against I think it was against Duke. He started AJ
Hmm.
Store, but AJ Store at the beginning of the season was coming off the bench. I think he's starting at Zeke Mayo now, but beginning of the season Zeke Mayo was coming off the
Zeke Mayo
bench,
was coming off
and
the
now
bench, so
AJ Store came off the bench last game if I'm not mistaken.
you're right.
Uh, so
It's just
yeah,
like
like
a lot
he's
of figuring it
picked up
out,
the
like
lineups.
shuffling lineups, trying to figure it out, get it out in the mud. A team that's been figuring it out, KT, UConn, and they rebounded to 18 in AP after impressive wins over Baylor and Texas. Two-time defending champs showcase their flashes, getting back to their roots and dominance. What say you about UConn in week 6?
A lot can be said about a team going through adversity because it's now what do you, okay. We were big bad UConn. We know we got this gigantor target on our back, and yes, we caught 3 L's. We can't even say Cool J. I don't know who got 3 L's, but we caught 3 L's, right? So it's a lot to say about a team that's going through adversity. People are questioning whether or not is this even a tournament team. You know what I'm saying? Let alone, how good is this team going to be this year? But to fight back, beat UMS like UMES like you're supposed to do, to be able to beat Baylor without Caravan, and then to turn around and beat Texas and kind of dominated Texas. So I like where they're at. Honestly, right now, I think they're properly rated. And I think I said they might have been properly rated last week as well. They're properly rated. I think 18 for them in the AP poll is a good spot.
A good spot.
Yeah.
We had multiple teams that moved in. Number 14, Michigan is ranked for the first time in nearly 3 years after tight wins over Wisconsin and Iowa. And the Wolverines have won 7 straight under first year coach Dusty May. Jalen, tell me more about this story in that's developing right now in the Big Ten.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the last 3 games, Denny Wolf and Vlad Golden have been really great front court duo for Michigan. Um, Dusty May, Final Four head coach. Um, like I'm not surprised. Like I was telling Brad um in the off season, like Michigan's gonna like sneak up on some people. People are expecting them to finish like eighth, ninth in the Big Ten. I'm like they have a solid roster because they got two good front court players in Danny Wolf and Vlad Gold.
Yeah.
Um, Now the perimeter is where kind of things start to get shaky, but I'm like they still have good depth perimeter wise. Um, but I'm not really surprised. If I'm not mistaken, they have what, one loss? Maybe it's two.
One?
Um, but I know for sure once against Wake Forest and a game that they could have won if I think it was LJ Kaysen. He ended up slipping at the top of the key and the Wake Forest player ended up stealing the ball, dunking it, put him up like six. But
And then
like
by then the game was out of reach, so he's
yeah,
couldn't nothing they could do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but I'm not really surprised by this. And I mean the story's been good because Michigan had like a little fall from grace with Juwan Howard,
They did.
especially near the end of his tenure. So yeah, I
That
mean
was
I'm
brutal. That was brutal to watch, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah. On the other side, East Lansing is kind of getting hot right now because they ranked for the first time after wins over Nebraska and Minnesota. This is another field goal story, I guess, for me, but I think it's good. Is it good for the overall health about basketball, college basketball, when Michigan State is doing good?
Yeah, I mean his time is up. Like especially on his last legs, because he's probably only got maybe. I'm
What?
I'm
Three?
I'm expecting this season is probably his last,
This
but
one?
he's
We're seeing a lot of elite coaches over the last few years decide to say, you know what, it's too much. Because we think the transfer portal was bad in college football. It's terrible in college basketball, bro. Terrible.
yeah. I mean Louisville has like 13 new players.
Like the
Crazy.
amount of recruiting that you have to do. Not only are you recruiting new players, the incoming players, you got to recruit your team for them in order to want to stay there. And that the biggest flaw of it all is the NBA, who want guys that are 18, 19 years old. It's ridiculous.
Crazy work. Speaking of crazy work, it's the fact that you was at the ACC championship. You got a chance to see Clemson football win home an ACC championship, and meanwhile, Clemson basketball is ranked number 16 and ranked for the first time this season, following their win over Kentucky and Miami. Are you keeping an eye out on Clemson, KT, as far as like where they go over the next couple of weeks?
I think Clemson basketball is, earlier in this show we were talking about, all right, maybe 5 ACC teams get in. I think as of now we're probably confident in saying, hey, one of those 5 teams will probably be Clemson. Chase Hunter, really effective. He's doing a good job at scoring the rock, shooting 47% from the field, also shooting almost 39% from the 3-point line. I think this is just another team that plays really solid team ball. And Jayla, how you pronounce this kid's last name? Shiflin?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, he's averaging 13 to 13 with 3.5 assists a game. I really like this Clemson team. And they showed a lot of heart in the ACC SEC Challenge, beating a really good Kentucky team, another team that I'm sneaky high on. I just ain't want Jalen no more. You can know I just ain't want Jalen
I was saying,
no more.
Kentucky perimeter scoring don't really scare me.
hey,
That's why I didn't want Jalen to know.
Jalen, does UCLA scare you with them being number 24 and them beating Oregon and Washington this past week?
Man, they shouldn't be Oregon. First of all, that was a goaltending call last night. They didn't call goal. They reversed it. That was goaltending. Who was it? Dylan Edwards. They hit that shot off the backboard for the game. But it doesn't really surprise me. Like, when I looked at that Oregon matchup, I was like, whoever win this game is going to have a quality win for March. So
Mhm.
That's a great point when you
yeah.
really start to look at what type of wins you have, how does your resume stack up against another person resume.
Although
Go ahead.
I will say, UCLA against the press did not look well. Like when Oregon started to press them, they got kind of
That's what-
worried, and they need to
Yeah.
put in like Mick Cronin ended up putting in like Sky Clark, and he ended up putting in like 2 or 3 guards, and it was like, okay, to handle the press because they could not handle the press.
Mm. That's the thing to watch if you're a team playing them coming up. Baylor, Memphis, Pittsburgh, Illinois, and North Carolina all dropped out of the rankings in the AP poll. Out of
This
those
funny.
teams, that means
Whenever we beat Tennessee on Saturday, we're gonna jump back in.
jump back in.
Yeah.
North Carolina, KT, do you think that they should be out? And like, is that deserved?
So I'm trying to choose my words carefully here because I know you two. And I know you two are listening to what I say. Oh, you want to give UConn the benefit of the doubt? Well, why are we not giving UNC the benefit of the doubt? UNC ain't won a championship last year. That's why we ain't getting it, nor did they win it the year before. I've watched this UNC team quite a few times. There was a team that they should have lost to, Jalen. Who was it? It was like
it was Dayton.
It was a mid-major team. It's even before Dayton.
Oh, you talking about the first game of the season?
Yeah, first game of the season. They should have lost. The fact of the matter is, I keep hyping up Elliot Cadeau. Elliot Cadeau refuses to shoot the damn ball.
That's not surprising.
Bro, he's shooting at a better clip. There's times, and I know college basketball is such an analytical sport, and they do not want to shoot the mid-range. It's times the mid-range is there. Brody, take it. Like, I feel like too many times he defers. So, based on what I said last week, the answer would, and many people I say, well, you said you don't. No, I don't think North Carolina is a top 25 team as of now. But will they have an opportunity to be a top 25 team later? Absolutely. Maybe just another team figuring it out. Maybe Hubert Davis is along the Bill Self lines of things and really trying to figure this thing out, because you'll see sporadic things going on with them. You know, sometimes Seth Trimble has a game. Sometimes Elliot Cadeau actually shoots the ball. And then, you know, RJ Davis definitely going to do his thing, and high volume of shots. Like Jalen was talking about last week, a really inefficient player.
Yeah, I think he went like 1 for 11.
If we're speaking candidly, so no. In my opinion, based on what we see, no, they're not a top 25 team. But when we get to ACC play, I think you'll see a much improved.
You'll find out
UNC
more.
team. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.